let me explain about the friction. Friction is a force that opposes the relative motion. The relative motion. So friction is a kind of force that opposes the relative motion. And this relative motion between two surfaces in contact. Let us consider a surface, a plane surface. I have kept a sphere like this and a cube like this. Now, you know very well in which case. Let me consider this is object 1 with mass 1 and mass 2. In which case, based on the shape, the friction is more. Anyone? M1 or M2? M2. Here the friction is more than M1. Why? Because the relative motion between the two surfaces of two bodies, in this case it is a minimum surface, whereas here it is almost more than the sphere. The contact point is more, and that is why the force is more, because it acts on more surface area. Do you understand? So when it is more, we already know that is when there is more, there will be more force also. So in this case, M2 experiences more friction than M1. Let me consider a cylinder like this, a roller, okay. Now this sphere or ball can easily roll down, and with some effort the cylinder can be rolled down, but we need to put more effort to pull or push the cube. Do you understand? Because the contact surface is more. Okay, so friction arises when there is a relative motion between two surfaces in contact. Are you able to follow? Particularly in terms of surfaces. And it occurs when irregularities or microscopic bumps on the surface interact with each other. Suppose if the road, if the surface is very rough, the friction will also be more. If the surface is very smooth, the friction is less. And that is why there is a skidding on the road where oil is spilled over. The two-wheeler people, they used to skid, டப்புன்னு அது வழியாக போகிறப்போ கீழே விழுந்துருவாங்க. ஏன்? அங்கே ஃப்ரிக்ஷனே இருக்காது, வளன்னு வழுக்கிட்டு போய்டும்ல, லியூப்ரிகேட் ஆகிடும். ஸோ இந்த இடத்துல அந்த ரஃப் சர்ஃபஸும் ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது இதில். அப்போ அந்த சர்ஃபேஸ் ரெகுலாரிட்டி பிட்வீன் த கான்டாக்ட் பாயிண்ட்ஸ் இருக்குல்ல, அதுவும் இட் டேக்ஸ் அ வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் ரோல். டேக் டவுன் சர்ஃபேஸ் irregularity. So that aggravates the resistance. Don't think that the friction can take place only in the case of solid. It can take place in liquid also, in fluid also. There are two types of friction. Two types of friction. What are those? Static friction and kinetic or dynamic. Kinetic friction. Static friction is this type. Actually, it prevents an object from starting, even from the starting, to move when a force is applied on it. It prevents an object from starting to move. When the force acting on the opposite side exceeds certain threshold, then the static friction force, that is the static friction force, at which the point the object begins to move. So till then it will be preventing. Okay, you have to put certain effort. For example, you have parked a car. We will try to push. Initially it will not move by pushing by a single person. But when there are a gang of people try to push, it has the tendency to move. So till then you can experience this static friction. Kinetic friction is, it opposes the motion. Opposes its motion. It means object motion. So generally, so this is during the motion, it opposes the motion actually. So here the kinetic friction is generally slightly weaker than the static friction. So kinetic friction can be represented as Fk. Static friction can be represented as Fs. So Fk is slightly weaker than Fs. So this is another point you have to note down. Now let us discuss about the applications of friction. Applications of frictional force. Frictional force enables us to hold a pen and write on a smooth paper, surface of a paper. Is it not? I am able to hold this pen and there should be some minimum level of friction. Okay. Otherwise what will happen? It will be slipping. Right? So it helps us to hold a pen. And write on a surface of paper. Assuming that the paper is something like a butter paper, it will be slipping, You cannot write on the butter paper. So it needs some level of roughness. It requires certain amount of friction. And that is why I used to suggest not to write anything using ball pen, because ball pen will be rolling. So you will not have friction. Whereas if you hold a good ink pen, fountain ink pen, it has got some friction and the handwriting will also be better. Next, the frictional force enables us to walk without slipping. Walk. Now the frictional force has gone because of want of ink. To walk without slipping. Then it helps us, especially for the vehicles, to slow down, to apply brake. So as to stop the vehicle. By applying brake. Brake, B-R-A-K-E. Then we can light matchstick by frictional force, which generates heat and light. That causes heat and light. The boat moves back when we deboard in it due to the validity of third law. And you can even talk about the recoil of gun. These are all applying by third law also. Okay. Now let us move to the next topic.